Hi, Allison here, aka Kaleidoscope Alley. I've tried to make this video like about 6 times now, and I think the only way to do it is just try not to be so formal about it. I'm freaking out a little bit over what's happening in the States. I'm not freaking out a little bit. I'm here I go again. I'm very concerned about, that's not true either. I want to do my part. I want to do something, and so I'm making this video. I want to be a part of standing up to and saying we need to do this in a different way. What's happening in the States with the kids being taken away from their parents at the border. It's a scary situation. It's way too reminiscent of things that I think many of us thought that we had put behind us as a race, more than 60 years ago. And apparently not. Apparently we need this moment to remember and to decide collectively that we need to put this to bed. Okay, so the thing that's coming up in me is like over the past few weeks especially, but even longer, this has been something that's been present in basically my whole life. But it's been kind of coming into focus for me the past few weeks, how our notions of professionalism really, really just saturate the way that we do things at official levels all across the board. And the problem with our notions of professionalism, as I see it, and have always, it's always not worked for me, is that they're kind of at odds with us as humans. We are not this tiny slice of ourselves that we're allowed to show at work that's called professional, that everything has to be all okay and we shouldn't have emotions and everything should be. To me, that's problematic, and it's part of the epidemic. It's part of the sickness that right now is begging us, offering itself up to us to be healed. Now, a little background for me and where I've been in this. My own situation, I'm here in Sweden. I'm kind of stuck here because I came over here for a relationship, ended up having a kid, and then once you have a kid in shared custody and you don't end up staying together, you're kind of tied at the hip. You can't move away from each other without being in agreement. So I'm kind of stuck in this small town in Sweden, and things have not gone my way. I've tried a number of different things to create solution for myself to make a living and have a good life, based on things that, that are important to me and that I can actually contribute with joy, and I have not been able to make it happen. I have been in a steady decline for 4.5, 5 years. And it finally got to the point where I had nothing left. I had tried everything to keep my head above water and not have to turn to social services. And I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And I am only just now realizing how completely stressed out and burned out and emotionally empty and just completely stripped of everything that every energy and possibility to function. I just was emotionally this far from just being completely and totally non-functional. So last year about this time, I was kind of forced. I was I hit a wall, and I don't think I hit a wall. I've been like this game, in a game when your character wanders off and it kind of runs into a wall and stands there, stomping up and down. That was me for more than a year, maybe almost 2 years. And finally I had no energy to stomp up and down, and I had to just sit down. And at that point I had to turn to the safety net here in Sweden. And it's something that I knew was there, and many people had told me like long before that I should, turn to and get help from. And I, as an American, just couldn't imagine that. That's a whole other video. But for me, it was like I should do everything I could to try to pull myself up by my own bootstraps and get through this before I went to that as an absolute last ditch option. And it really was last ditch. I didn't do it until I had no other way out. And then I did turn to it. And I've been on this journey for the past year. I've actually been on disability for the total burnout that I experienced. And as I start to now approach being better, starting to feel healthy again, it's only now that I realize like how far down I was, because I realize, I'm starting to get my energy back. I'm starting to want to do these things, and I'm starting to, like want to interact with people, and I'm starting to have energy for this and that and the other thing. And before, I had even just basic survival things were more energy than I had, and more of a struggle. There was too much stress, and it was so intense. So I had to have this experience. I also know what it's like to come to, a new country as an immigrant and have to adjust to all of that. In the process of this, being on disability and getting help from the local government, I have been spending some time, as I've tried to like increase my activity level. I've been spending some time sitting with other people at a place where they have activities, just come and hang out and maybe do some crafts, or maybe go to just some basic activities to like try to reconnect people with with a social life, really, yeah. But anyhow, at this place, there are people who, for various different reasons, have also been on disability. And sitting there and having conversations and just being completely open and honest about where I was and realizing how much of a need there was, I had such a positive response to that. People really responded to me just being straightforward and like, hey, this is where I am and you're allowed to be where you are. And that was a place where that could happen, where those kinds of meetings could occur. And I started to see that, and how, I haven't done much in the way of YouTube videos because of this notion of professionalism. And I'm a coach, and I want to work consulting on issues of empowerment and that sort of thing. And how can I do that? And how can I put that out if this is where I am myself? Who's going to listen to me? It's not professional, right? And then I moved on, and I got sort of an internship, or a non-paid job at the local school for teaching Swedish to immigrants. And in this case, like 98+% of them are refugees at the current time. So now I've been having daily interactions with refugees and hearing about their lives and their experiences, and really kind of getting an insight into I've gotten insight into the systems that are in place, both through my own illness and dealings with, the system, the health system, and with the social services, and now with the immigration and integration services that are present. And all along the way, what I've craved and what I see others desperately needing is humanness, is realness. And whenever I've had it, it's been so nurturing and so helpful and so much what I needed. And yet, in order to make the systems functional for the people who work in them every day, we tend to cut out this humanness, because we just, I guess as humans, we don't have the strength to take all of that in again and again and again and again and again. But this is something we need to address. And on the greater scale of like us evolving as humans, this is where I really strongly feel that we're headed, that like evolution wants to take us to a place where professionalism as we know it now, the thought of controlling what is seen of yourself in your work environment, in your interactions with others, of limiting that to just something that you think is acceptable, to actually opening up to being more human. And why? Why is this important? Why is this important? This is obviously the Trump thing, and what's happening is obviously a clear red flag to me that we have gone too far into the dark side of this notion when we can even fathom that this would in any way be an acceptable thing to do. To take a child, who cares if the rule says that the people should be put in prison? You cannot take children out, screaming and crying out of the arms of their parents simply because they made a, bad or illegal decision to come across the border with them. And we won't even go into what might be the reasoning behind this, or what. I don't even care. I don't even care about that. What it boils down to is, if we in any way think that that is an acceptable possibility, then we have lost our humanity. And the reason that I see this as connected is that the way that we have built things, our notion, our devotion to the idea of professionalism, has driven us to create from a space that is disconnected from our humanity. And I see it as so important that we step up and change this now. And I feel very strongly that this situation has occurred in order to wake us up to say, we can all imagine this being our kid. And if this can happen to them because they screwed up, what is to stop it from happening, in other ways? And we can't accept that. I really feel like we finally have something that applies to every single person. If you don't have kids, you've been a kid, and you can imagine what it would be like to be yanked from your parents in that way. There is nobody on this planet that cannot relate to that situation. And if they connect with their heart at all for a second, have got to realize that this is not acceptable, and this is a huge red flag. So that's why I want to make this video today. I really see our way forward as becoming self-aware, skilled navigators of life, instead of attempting to control what is seen of us. And the reason that it's important for our future and for what we're going to create, and for innovation, and for creating positive, good, abundant, sustainable ways forward, is that human nature is amazing. It's expansive. It's ingenious. We love to explore and expand and come up with new ways of doing things. But what drives us in that is our humanity. It is our whole experience as a human. So when we cut ourselves off from that in our work lives and in our professional lives and in what we create together as a society, when we cut ourselves off from our emotions, from the scary parts, from the dark parts, from the uncomfortable parts, from the messy parts, when we cut ourselves off from that and say that's not professional, and therefore that has no place in society, in the workplace, in institutions, etc., etc. When we do that, we cut ourselves off from our humanity, and in so doing, we cut ourselves off from our ability to move forward and be innovative. I really don't think you can do that without breaking the current rules in some way. And we desperately right now need people to be using their full capacity and ingenuity, and that requires people being brave enough to be messy and be human and let that drive them. So on many fronts, I feel this is really important. I have a lot more to say on the topic, but I just wanted to do this video because I want to put something out from my heart into the rest of the world regarding this thing that's happening with the kids in the States. And I think it's really important. I think this is a wake-up call. I think it's a watershed moment, and life is asking us if we dare to be fully human. And atrocities are part of being fully human. That's also true, unfortunately, the dark side of us. But we have to be willing to look at it and see it for what it is and say, this is not okay. And we're willing to face the messy of there's not necessarily a good solution, perhaps. You know, we don't know what the answer is, but we know that this is not acceptable. This is not an okay way to go about it. We see where it's coming from our fears, from our desire to control. But we choose as humans not to go down that road. We choose to embrace the fullness of our humanity and our compassion and commit to finding another way to do things. Okay, I think I've rambled enough about that. I really wanted to get that out there. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.